Before reciting the Srimad Bhagavatam, which is the very means of conquest, one should first offer respectful obeisances unto the Supreme Personality of Godhead Narayan, unto Narayan Rishi, the supremest human being, unto Mother Sarasvati, the goddess of learning, and unto Srila Vyasadeva, the author. Shrinvatam Swakata Krishna, Punya Shravana Kirtana, Vidyantasto Bhadrani, Vedunoti Suvritsatam, Shri Krishna, the personality of Godhead, who is the Paramatma Supersoul in everyone's heart, and the benefactor of the truthful devotee, cleanses desire for material enjoyment from the heart of the devotee who has developed the urge to hear his messages, which are in themselves virtuous when properly heard and chanted. Nasta Prayeshu Bhadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavati Uttama Shloke Bhakti Bhakti regular attendance in classes on the Bhagavatam and by rendering of service to the pure devotee, all that is troublesome to the heart is almost completely destroyed, and loving service unto the personality of Godhead, whose praise of transcendental songs is established as an irrevocable fact. So we got a reading from Srimad Bhagavatam. Canto 1, Chapter 19, last chapter in Canto 1, entitled The Appearance of Shukadeva Goswami. We're on text 37. Ata Pachami Samsiddhim Ata Pachami Samsiddhim Yoginam Paramam Gurum Yoginam Paramam Gurum Purushasyeha Yat Karyam Purushasyeha Yat Karyam Mriyamanasya Manas, you should say Manasya, it's the same. Manasya. M-A-N. Manasya. Sarvata Mriyamanasya Sarvata
Mriyamanasavata
Ata Pachami Samsiddhim Yoginam Paramam Gurum Purushasyeha Yat Karyam Mriyamanasya Sarvata Ata Pachami Samsiddhim Yoginam Paramam Gurum Purushasyeha Yat Karyam Purushasya, that's all one word. Purushasya. How tricky. Mriyamanasya Sarvata Ata Pachami Samsiddhim Yoginam Paramam Gurum Purushasyeha yat karyam Mriyamanasya sarvata. I think that was 3 times. Let's just check.
Atakpuchami samsatim Yoginam paramam gurum Purushashyat karyam Mriyamanasya sarvaja
Atat Pachami Samsadhim
Yoginam Paramam Gurum
Yoginam Paramam Gurum
Purusasya Yat Karyam
Purushasya Yat Karyam
Virmamanasya Sarvata
Riyamani Sasa Sapata.
Anybody else?
Ata Pachami Samsimhim Yoginam Paramam Gurum Purushasya Yat Karyam Riyayami
It doesn't look like a tongue twister, but it's twisted out all the time. Yeah. Okay. So word by word. Ataha.
Therefore.
Pachami. Beg to inquire. Some said him. The way of perfection. Yoginam. Of the saints. Paramam. The supreme. Gurum. The spiritual master. Purushasya. Of a person. You see that word Purusha in there? I guess the asya part is the makes it of a person. Iha. In this life. Yat. Whatever. Karyam. Duty. Mriyamanasya. Of one who's going to die. Sarvata. In every way. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada.
Jai Srila Prabhupada.
So I'll read it through once. You are the spiritual master of great saints and devotees. I am therefore begging you to show the way of perfection for all persons, and especially for one who's about to die. Please repeat. You are the spiritual master of great saints and devotees. I'm therefore begging you to show the way of perfection for all persons. And especially for one who's about to die. Okay, purport. Unless one is perfectly anxious to inquire about the way of perfection, there's no necessity of approaching a spiritual master. A spiritual master is not a kind of decoration for a householder. Generally, a fashionable materialist engages a so-called spiritual master without any profit. The pseudo-spiritual master flatters the so-called disciple, and thereby both the master and his ward go to hell without a doubt. Maharaj Parikshit is the right type of disciple because he puts forward questions vital to the interest of all men, particularly for the dying men. The question put forward by Maharaj Parikshit is the basic principle of the complete thesis of Srimad Bhagavatam. Now, let us see how intelligently the great master replies. Now, this purport, it kind of sums up both the next verse and this verse. So I'm going to read the next verse. The purport kind of applies to both. So text 38 is Yat Shrotavyam Ato Japyam Yat Kartavyam Rivi Prabho Smartavyam Vajaniyam Va Bruhi Yat Va Viparyayam. And that one translates as, Please let me know what a man should hear, chant, remember, and worship, and also what he should not do. Please explain all this to me. So this purport, the purport kind of covers both these verses. So, Omagana Timirandasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshur Unmilitam Yena Tasma Shri Guruvaya Namaha. I was born in the darkness of ignorance, and my spiritual master opened my eyes with the torchlight of knowledge, and I offer my respectful obeisances unto him. So, this is interesting. The short purport ends with the question put forward by Maharaj Parikshit is the basic principle of the complete thesis of Srimad Bhagavatam. Let us now see how intelligently the great master replies. So there's a request lately that we summarize the first canto. And this kind of fits right in here because the question put forward is the basic principle of the complete thesis of the whole Bhagavatam. So it kind of fits to summarize the first canto, where we've been so far. So I want to do that. But first I want to talk about some points in the purport. So one is, if you take a spiritual master, you should choose a real spiritual master, and you should be really a real disciple. You have to be really serious about asking. You have to be sincere about wanting to solve the problems of life, and not just get a decoration, get a little prestige, have a spiritual master, have him bless your material efforts, and so on. That's not what Prabhupada puts, is that no profit. There's no gain from that. There's no gain. If you're not serious, even one can take a bona fide spiritual master not very seriously. So if we take a spiritual master, we should be really serious about, we want to solve the problems of life. Otherwise, wasting everybody's time. If you're not serious about solving the problems of life and you just want to have, for some kind of like social decoration, I got one too, you know. I got a spiritual master, I got a spiritual name too, I have some prestige too, then that's not going to benefit you. You have to be really serious about wanting answers, wanting to solve the problems of life. And it says here, it seems like a very strong sentence, but I'm going to look at it closely. It says, the pseudo-spiritual master flatters the so-called disciple, and thereby both the master and his ward go to hell without a doubt. Now the words go to hell kind of like hit us in the Christian way. They're going to hell forever? Wow. But actually everybody goes to some kind of hell to get their punishment for what they did, so they could be rectified. Hell is just a punishment for what you did, and it's only for as long as to punish you for what you did. There's no eternal hell, and everybody who isn't liberated or isn't somehow on the pure devotional path or kind of aiming higher is going to go to some kind of hell. And it's routine. Everybody's going to go and get their punishment. All humans, when they're done, they have to go to Yamaraj, and they have to get some kind of sentence, and they have to experience something, and then they get their karma in the new body also. So you kind of get double dose. None of it's eternal. You get double dose because sometimes we could do business with just one dose, equal parts. Okay, I could sin this much, I can take that much hell. I can take that much bad karma, and we kind of do business. But we're going to get it twice, so that's more deterring than if we just get once. So we get hell and we get bad karma for our sins. But going to hell doesn't mean forever. It means you're not liberated from your sins. You're going to go and you're going to, what everybody else has to do, you're going to go to hell for your sins. That's what that means upon examination. So Maharaj Parikshit is the right type of disciple because he puts forward questions vital to the interest of all men, particularly for the dying men. The question put forward by Maharaj Parikshit is the basic principle of the complete thesis of Srimad Bhagavatam. What is the duty? It's the same question Arjuna asked, right? What's my duty? I can't see no means of solving this. So Krishna, I'm your surrendered disciple now. You tell me what's my duty. What should I do? Because he could find no way out of it. Everything looked like sin to him. He couldn't see what would be okay to do. And saying we're all in this perplexity. In the Bhagavad Gita, Prabhupada calls it perplexity. Because we don't know how to solve the problems of material life. Arjuna was facing having to kill others. He was facing everybody's death, and maybe his own as well. and he was going to have to participate in causing it. And Maharaj Parikshit got cursed to die in 7 days. So, similar situation, because Arjuna didn't know if he's going to come out of that war alive. Imagine you're facing an army of millions lined up, millions of expert warriors, and you don't know, you're going to have to fight. This is your life from now on until you die in a few days or a few hours. And so, that's what Arjuna was facing. Krishna, Prabhupada even pointed out that Krishna was saying it's better for Arjuna to die in battle than to escape it. So, so Maharaj Parikshit has accepted his curse, and he's facing death in a few days. In both cases, we got a perplexity of life here. So what should we do? What's our duty? So that is the whole purpose of Srimad Bhagavatam, to tell us what our duty is. But you know, Srimad Bhagavatam, as the teaching of Shukadeva Goswami, doesn't start till Canto 2. Shukadeva Goswami has not spoken yet, and we're just about done with his canto. So what's the first canto? So that's important to look at too. This first canto is like a book in itself. One could study it like the Bhagavad Gita. It's a book in itself. And then Shukadeva Goswami starts speaking, and then it expands. So the first canto introduces everything. And so I thought I'd just kind of run through. I did a study. First, let me tell you how I got, so I understand the whole layout. It's a good way to study that I found. Outline it. Get your spiral notebook and your pens, and go through chapter by chapter. Study. Just look at the text and write down what number to what number is doing this, and what number to what number is doing the next thing. Because naturally in any telling, there's going to be a group of sentences that go together in a unit of action or explanation, and then it moves to the next moment or the next step or the next explanation, even within the same chapter. So when I say outline it, that's what I mean. I don't mean attempting to make Roman numerals. It's a conversation. You can't do Roman numeral outlines with a conversation. It doesn't flow that way. So just examine the groups and write down what number to what number is doing what. And do that for each chapter. And do it then for overall view of which groups of chapters are doing what. So I studied in that way. It's not too hard once you figure out that that's a way to study. It's not too hard to just have to sit down and do it. And so I did that with the Bhagavad Gita, and then I did it with the first canto also. And then you go over again and look at the purports and see Prabhupada's introducing a lot of stuff too in the purports. And that's really important also. So the first canto, the first 3 chapters are establishing certain things. First of all, establishing Krishna's God, establishing the Bhagavatam is the greatest and the ultimate book, and establishing Shukadeva Goswami who spoke it. The first 3 verses do that. The first 3 chapters go deeper into establishing Krishna, and they establish him as the source of everything, as the Lord, as how you develop your love for him, and he's the source of all incarnations. All that is established in the first 3 chapters. And it's established because the sages asked. Now, that also establishes the situation of this conversation. Because in a sense, the whole Bhagavatam is spoken by Sutta Goswami, relating what Shukadeva Goswami said. So it's the second level of speaking. And it tells about how the sages have gathered in the forest of Naimisharanya, and they're going to do 1,000-year, or they've been doing 1,000-year sacrifice for the good of the world. And they're a little frustrated because they're not sure if it's the Kali Yuga is starting, they're not sure their sacrifice is going to work. And so they want some Krishna Katha. And so they started asking some questions of Sutta Goswami, because Sutta Goswami was present in the conversation between Shukadeva Goswami and Parikshit Maharaj. So he heard the whole thing from Shukadeva Goswami. So Sutta Goswami and he's also a qualified personality, so they request him to speak this Bhagavatam to them. So they started with asking him a bunch of general questions in chapter 2, and it's an interesting study to find those questions, because at the beginning of chapter 3, somewhere in the beginning, Prabhupada says in a purport that the sages ask, I believe it's 6 questions. And so since they're not numbered, and they are in different paragraphs in different ways, so it's interesting to go through the study and see if you can figure out what exactly all 6 questions are. It's interesting study itself. And then in the next chapter, which ones has he answered already? He answers some, and some of them develop more. So that's the first 3 chapters establishing that. After that, it goes to, I should have the table of contents notes so I can. Table of contents. So then it goes to, okay, the first canto is also a magnificent dual biography that ends in the 2 persons meeting. And it's magnificent because not only is it very, very great and deep, about very great and deep devotees, but it's 3 generations for each. In the case of Shukadeva Goswami, it's 3 spiritual generations because his father Vyasadeva is also his natural, as Prabhupada puts it, his natural spiritual master, because he heard the Bhagavatam from his father. So in Shukadeva Goswami's case, it's 3 spiritual generations, and in Maharaj Parikshit's case, it's 3 biological generations. So he was the Pandavas. So chapter 4 through 6 and a little bit into chapter 7 is about the background for Shukadeva Goswami, how Narada Muni guided Srila Vyasadeva, who then wrote, under spiritual guidance, wrote the Bhagavatam. Then he taught it to Shukadeva Goswami. And that's told. And not only that, we get a little bit about Narada Muni himself. He tells his own story. So that's a 3-generation biography right there. So we learn about Narada Muni and Vyasadeva and Shukadeva. And we know not the details of their material details so much, but we know the evolution of the spiritual. Not evolution is if it's the right word, how it grew, how it got passed on, what each of them faced, what each of them, what each of their spiritual story, like that. And then we go to the Pandavas. We got the son of Drona punished, and in that chapter we 2 generations are dealt with the Pandavas, and then briefly, unfortunately, because they were murdered in their sleep, the 2nd generation is discussed, the sons of the Pandavas, and that Parikshit Maharaj is a grandson by a different son that was also killed in the war. So, in a sense, the middle generation is briefly dealt with because they died in the war. But the Pandavas are discussed, and then it leads to Parikshit Maharaj. So there's several chapters on that. But in that chapter, the son of Drona punished, we get to hear from a woman, right off the bat. In the first canto, 2 women get to speak and show their wisdom. As women, they're speaking as women, but they show the depth of their understanding. So Draupadi gets to show, and everybody sides with her and agrees that she's right. And then in the next chapter, Queen Kunti says prayers to Krishna. And we hear from another woman and her depth of spiritual understanding. So this is nice. This is a nice introduction to. Don't forget that women are also spirit souls, and women also. We get to have some women to look up to as well. And then let's see, chapter 8, chapter 9 through 11, kind of. 9 is about Vishnudev. Vishnudev gets to speak, and then he gets to speak, and he introduces Varnashram. He actually Mahabharata expounds on what Vishnudev said. And so the Bhagavatam itself does not repeat that, but Prabhupada in the purport sums it up. So we get introduction to Varnashram there. And then Grandfather Vishnu, it shows his relationship with Krishna. So it shows Krishna's relationship with Grandfather Vishnu too. And then it shows Krishna leaving the departing for Dwarka and arriving at Dwarka, and the different kinds of devotees, their relationship with him. So this is also very instructive. We get introduced to the variety of relationships with Krishna and how Krishna reciprocates with each one. So this is also set. And then we go back to the story, the Pandavas line. So birth of Emperor Parikshit. He's born, and all the prayers and the ceremonies and all that. And then the predictions for him. Dhritarashtra quits home. So that's something that gives you an introduction to what should we do about our own old age. Give some advice and example about old age. And in other words, death is coming for everyone. So it's another angle on that. And disappearance of Lord Krishna, and Krishna left, so the Pandavas decided to retire timely in 115. And okay, we've taken care of for the previous 2 generations now of the Pandava, of the Parikshit side of this dual biography. And now Parikshit is going to show how he was king, how great he was. He received the age of Kali. It shows how that happened. And there's a whole lot of philosophy and narrative and everything to show there about the age of Kali and about religious principles. Which, another thing that the first canto introduces, the religious principles. Then, finally, we have the last 2. March Parikshit is cursed by a Brahmana boy, showing not only how the age of Kali has influence and the Brahmanas have fallen and stuff, it also just moves the narrative along. And so you can see how Krishna sometimes arranges for something to happen with his devotees so that he can do his thing. He wanted to have the Bhagavatam spoken, so he kind of like let Parikshit Maharaj do something stupid, and so he could get cursed by a fallen Brahmana boy, and then the Bhagavatam could be spoken, and then Parikshit, first of all, could give the example of what to do about this, how to face death, how to accept that it's coming, how to seek answers of what to really do. He was already a pretty pure devotee, but he was, busy being king, and so he decided to let that all go, let his whole identity as king go, and just be a soul, and find out exactly more what I can do. So he didn't say, well, I'm already a pure devotee, what am I worried about? He said, no, I have to find out what to do now. So he faced it head on and got deep about it. And of course then Shukadeva Goswami arrived. And it spends a lot of time describing his qualities. So that there the dual biography has come together in the meeting. And the question is asked. And this is the first canto. And this is, all these things are being introduced to us, just like when you read the Bhagavad Gita for the first time. You have the whole thing being introduced to us, and then the first canto of the Bhagavatam, all these things are introduced to us. And we are ready to hear from Shukadeva Goswami. So that's my summary of the first canto, which I really love. It's amazing, amazing book, very magnificent and deep and broad and wonderful. So, I don't know what time it is. Maybe that didn't take very long. Let's see. It was only... I summarized the whole first canto, and it didn't take very long. So, if anybody else wants to summarize it with their insights, they could there's probably room for all kinds of insights. So, I can open it for comments and questions.
When I came upon this literature, it was like nothing else I'd ever seen in my life. And every morning, I would try to read before going to work. And it was like when I opened up the book, it was like a rainbow came in the room. And then everything I was experiencing that moment that was disturbing me, the answer was in there magically that day.
Wow. And it's true. It's so rich that any place you open to, it has answers if we are tuned in. If the super soul shines a light within.
That's what I tell people when I try to distribute books, is that you can open this book to any page, any day, and you're going to get exactly what you need.
It's amazing. Thank you. I just saw somebody posted where someone had asked Prabhupada, what should we say? Or Prabhupada asked them, what do you say when you're distributing books? And he said, oh, we try to tell them it's about meditation. Yeah, this little spiel that he gave. And Prabhupada just opened to this verse. Where is it? In end of chapter 2. Oh, I haven't got to it. Let's see. About the, chapter. Oh, I think it's the end of chapter 3. About yes. This Bhagavatam is as brilliant as the sun, and it has arisen just after the departure of Lord Krishna to his own abode, accompanied by religion, knowledge, etc. Persons who have lost their vision due to the dense darkness of ignorance in the age of Kali shall get light from this Purana. I heard a long time ago of a devotee who distributed books by reciting that verse. And then I saw it confirmed that Prabhupada said to do that, so that the Bhagavatam sell itself. It's just like you were saying.
Johnny, I was 30 when I found this book. I had really suffered.
And you're ready to hear. This was an answer to one of the questions that the sages asked. They said, now that Krishna has departed, to whom will the religious principles go for shelter? And this is like the direct answer. This Bhagavad Purana is as brilliant as the sun, has risen just after the departure of Lord Krishna to his own abode, accompanied by religion, knowledge, etc. Persons who have lost their vision due to the dense darkness of ignorance in the age of Kali shall get light from this Purana. It's the answer to that question. So there's one of the 6 questions. And the answer. Is there anything else? Yeah.
When you're talking about curses, who gives people that power?
Talking about which?
When you're talking about a Brahmin who curses.
I can't catch that word.
Curses.
Curses?
Curse.
Curses are a subtle material power that yogis can get by long practice of meditational yoga, when they really know how to do it, and we really don't know how to do it in this age, nor do we live long enough to acquire it, nor are we that austere. And but in the ancient times, if somebody like a Brahmana was able to perform long austerities and knew the science of subtle matter, then, which there is a science, there's a lot of science to it, and he could curse, and they would use it either for good or for ill. They could use it if they're in anger, and they would use up their power in anger and hurt somebody, but then they would have less power. Or they could use it for good. If somebody needed to, like King Vena, who was so evil that when he was a boy, he would kill his playmates. His father didn't know what to do, so his father left for the forest. And so King Vena became king, and there were no dacoits, there were no thieves and gangs and stuff, but there were, however, he was like killing citizens and stuff, so the sages got together. They didn't want to get involved because they just want to do their higher things, but they said, we got to do something about this, so they cursed him with high-sounding words, simple words, apparently, not some fancy curse, but he died because they cursed him, because of their words. So they had power accumulated. So it's an invisible accumulation of power, but it's material. And you can accumulate it by a long practice of austerity, and you can use it up. So nowadays we're not supposed to curse people, we're not supposed to say curse words, we call them curse words now, so we're not supposed to say them. We're not supposed to wish bad on people. We don't have a whole lot of power. We do some austerity, so we've got to be careful because we're trying to be brahmanas and we do some austerity. We don't want to really hurt somebody, so we have to be careful, double careful not to say those things, because we might really hurt somebody with a little power we accumulated. Yeah.
People that use Kali Jadu, they're not necessarily Brahmanas.
No, that's probably a different science. There's magic too. There's like manipulation. I don't know anything about it, but there's there's all range of subtle science. Yeah.
For example, is it like it's not curse, but for example, when we say something in front of deities, for example, like Srimad wanted to go to India, And she was
Hairani
open-
wanted to go what?
to India. She wanted to go, and I told her an altar was open. I told her that she has to go, and she said, "Oh, because you're saying this in front of the deities, you should be very careful because now I have to go." So it's like this. So when you say this in front of deities, something like even good, the person that you will get married, you should be careful because it really may happen. Because like it said that when you do this in front of deities, it can happen. So it's not our power. It's just like
Yeah.
I don't know if it's true. It's just how divorce
It
So
would
Katya's
be.
immigration will be resolved and she can stay.
So we
Jai.
could say, if that was really true, we could say anything we want in front of the deities and fix the whole world, but I don't think it works that easy.
Yeah, but it's just, she like, what Karibani feels like sometimes deity is speaking to someone, for example. Like, not like he's empowered, but it's just like when you tell something like promising something in front of the deities, you have this strength from deities. I don't know how to explain this, but something.
Yeah, I don't know what to say about that. I don't know, some of it's a little,
It's a superstition.
maybe, I don't want to say that, but it might be a little bit of that mixed in.
How is that superstition? You're saying something...
Doesn't make it happen, the deities have their own will.
Well, yeah, of course, but
But
you're
it's like
saying
a-
something auspicious in front of the deities.
Yeah.
And the deities are persons that hear,
Mhm.
they want to reciprocate, they can reciprocate.
Yeah, but they might reciprocate that way or a different way, huh?
Because devotee is saying this.
But to say it's a superstition, to believe in God,
Maybe if you both talk at the same time, I don't know what anybody's saying.
yeah, well, yeah, I don't understand what you're
But
saying.
if you say, and like, it's not like a magic thing, but if you say, you're going to go to India in front of the deities, that means that now I got to go to India. You know, it's not that push button.
No, of course she already wanted to go.
Yeah, she already
didn't
wanted
know
to go.
about this, so just
And that gave her a little boost probably. Now she thought, I have to go now, so then she went. So I don't know if it was her mind or the deities. Who's next?
I was gonna, just
Okay.
to finish
Okay.
so you're saying is it a gift that's bestowed on someone, or is it training, or is it your karma that empowers you with this?
How does a scientist know how to make something work? He accumulated some knowledge and he knows how to manipulate matter, right? In a certain way. So it's likely,
Well, not everybody
likewise.
can do that. I mean, not everybody's Einstein.
No,
Not
okay, so you
everybody-
got some kind of gift or some kind of, no, it's not like gift just gets bestowed on you and all of a sudden it's something that you grew, maybe from a past life or something. Everything is a gift from Krishna, in a sense, but we have to like deserve it and grow into it. I don't know which of you two is next.
I'm last.
Okay.
Oh.
Yes.
Well, I thought the original question was about Sringi.
It was about Shringi, how
Yeah,
he
and
cursed?
yeah, because he had that power because he was a Brahmin, and son of a
probably
Brahmin.
was.
And at that time it happened, there was still power available for the rishis and the
Yeah.
Brahmins to do that
Evidently,
kind of
he had
thing.
some residual power from his last life, or his father taught him meditations and a method of cursing without teaching him the qualities yet.
And the second part of my statement was
Yeah.
we have to be careful what we say
Yeah.
because it's like someone said, every word we say can be a prayer. So if I wish so and so happened on you, then that's not that's like a prayer almost, even though it's not, dear Lord,
Yeah.
please do so and so to so and so.
If
But
it's a wrong one, it might come back on you.
Yeah, it will
Yeah.
because it's karma.
Yeah.
And so you're playing with karma there, and you will get some fallout. And people who assist you in it, knowingly, and maybe even not knowingly, people who assist you in that or cover that up will actually get some of the fallout too. So you could drag other people into the whole thing.
Well, yeah.
Our thoughts, but we're not judged on our thoughts, right? If you think, oh wow.
Thoughts have effects, but you don't get karma just for thoughts.
Not in
But
this age.
thoughts do have effect on you, at least.
Right.
And then the effects of it on you may
Will
affect
cause
others.
you
Yeah.
to act.
So this is very subtle and deep kind of
Thinking, feeling.
science. I don't
Will.
necessarily know all the ins and outs, but
Because we have to watch our thought life because it'll turn
yeah,
into
we have to
real
watch our
life.
thought life. We should watch our thought life anyway. Thoughts take us down or up. We should think about Krishna.
Mhm.
Yeah.
It also says that in Kali Yuga, all curses come back on you.
The-
It says that?
Yes, I believe it's in one of the
That's
higher
good, yeah.
Bhagavatam numbers, but
No.
all curses come back on you in Kali Yuga, and also it says that there are people who are so powerful from the power of their chanting that they can't utter a word without it becoming true.
Yes.
Yeah, just what Krishna Shrava was telling. I think it's in Srimad Bhagavatam it said that in Kali Yuga, your thoughts, if you think something bad, it's not, in previous ages, in Satya Yuga, even if you think something bad, it leads to some reaction. But to have something good, you have to actually do this. And in Kali Yuga, if you think something good, it actually gives you benefit, but to make something bad, you have to actually commit something bad. So
Yeah.
I think it's said in Srimad Bhagavatam maybe in 7.
It says you're not responsible for your thoughts in
Yeah.
Kali Yuga. That's a benediction.
Yeah, well, yeah, we are
But we still
not
need to
held
be careful.
responsible. We are responsible to try to control our thoughts, but we are not held responsible karmically.
Yeah, and because, depending on where we are developing spiritually,
Yeah.
where we should know better.
And thinking, feeling, and willing is real too.
Yeah.
Because what you start thinking will possibly come to reality.
Yeah. It's all right with everything. Did I say anything wrong? I just want to make sure that nobody walked out because I said anything wrong, or because
Oh,
we
no.
were going to go anyways. Because it was a little tricky to. Okay. I can't see you. Oh, sorry, I couldn't see against the light. I couldn't see who
Let me
was.
add one thing to what you just said.
Yeah.
Those curse thing and all this medical thing, there is still in practice in India, in certain areas.
Yeah.
And they still work.
Oh,
Yeah.
the
In
curses.
America
The
too.
curses and all. Let me tell you one small thing about this. I don't know if this is a generation curse, I think. I keep talking to them. Narottam. Our Narottam, okay? Our Narottam's mother, first daughter born, dies. And then she gives birth to her daughter. Her first daughter dies. Narottam, first daughter dies. It's a curse from somewhere. He also said that. From some generation, something. All their first daughter dies.
Wow.
Yes, the whole family can be cursed. My whole family
From
has
something.
kidney disease. I had a kidney transplant.
Like
My
this.
brother had a kidney transplant.
Well, some of it is genetic weakness too, so it's not always a curse. It could be
Well,
genetic.
that's also karma.
Yeah,
We have our
which is karma,
genetics.
but karma's not a curse. Karma's for what we did ourselves, not what somebody else did.
Yeah.
It's very complicated because actually, just like what we see, physical reality, we can do something to somebody, or something can just happen to somebody. Somebody can do something to us, or something can just happen to us or we can manipulate things, or we can accept as fate the way things are. Even the visible world has all kinds of complications and levels and different things you can do and can't do with it, and other people can do with it. So it's the same thing in the subtle. I think your hand is up, and then John.
Okay, this Shastra scripture does say that our mind is our best friend, our worst enemy. So the worst thing can happen to you comes from you.
That's true.
And other people may be doing and throwing all kind of curses and stuff, but the worst thing that can happen to you in this body, in this life, with you as a soul, is your mind. And
How much worse physically can it get to be a good king, doing good things for people and wanting to continue to do good for people, and to be cursed, to die by the bite of a horrible, terrifying snake bird? And what could be worse? But Parisha Maharaj just took it as an opportunity to increase his Krishna consciousness. So
Thank
you're it's true. The worst thing that can happen to you comes from within. John.
Yeah, the whole point I was trying to make is, this is a Brahmin who's supposed to be doing good. but he wants to attack someone. So I guess he's trying to teach him a lesson. Like,
You're talking about the boy?
yeah.
Yeah, but he was pretty immature how he thought about this lesson. He was angry. He wanted a revenge lesson. I'll teach you a lesson.
And
It's not the same exactly.
but still it was arranged by Krishna.
Yeah. Well, a Brahmana there can be an atheistic Brahmana.
Oh.
And a Brahmana is one who knows Brahman. If he doesn't think that Brahman is separate, he's a Maya body, and he doesn't think Brahman is separate from who I am, but he still says, I'm soul, there's spirit, there's matter. He knows matter and spirit. So, and he knows it deeply, and he lives a certain kind of lifestyle that he's inclined towards study and teaching and ceremonies and worship ceremonies and stuff like that. But he might be an atheist, he might be a demigod worshiper or a Mayavadi, which is kind of ends up the same thing. If you follow it long enough, it ends up the same. But he knows the difference between matter and spirit. So that's a Brahmana. He might not necessarily be a good devotee. So.
And also not a blade of grass moves without first being sanctioned by Krishna.
Yes, Krishna allows everything that happens. He allows all our bad actions and our good actions and everything. So we interact with each other. It's very complicated. If somebody attacks you, is it your karma or is it their being bad? Who knows? It could be.
Mix.
We can't see all these factors, what they really are.
Well, my Guru Maharaj Jagapataka Swami says that the Lord accomplishes more with every action than we could ever even conceive of.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. In other words, no single event is for one purpose only.
Thank you so much for such a nice and a short class.
Thank you so much for the next short class. Okay, thank you all for participating.
Thank you.
All goes to Srila Prabhupada, all goes to Srimad Bhagavatam.